What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. So for today, we will be talking about the only skill you need to make money. Okay, so if you are scratching your head trying to make more money, but it's not happening, and you don't really have the time or the resources to actually sit down and learn a skill so you can make more money, this is one of the quickest, best ways, okay, to make more money. And that skill set is sales. All right, so you can make significantly more money with sales, either selling your own product or service or selling the product or service of someone else. Barrier to entry isn't that high, and if you are gonna do it for another company, they generally do spend on your training. Okay, but like I said, barrier to entry is pretty low. It's not high whatsoever, so it's something that will be easy to pick up and get you hitting the ground running and making money quickly. So what I'll do is I'll walk you through the steps of the sales process. So first step is prospecting. Now, what is prospecting? That's when you identify a potential customer or lead who may have an interest in your product or service. This could involve market research, networking, or using lead generation tools. So basically, all you're trying to do is search out for people that might be interested in your product or service. Now, there's typically two ways that you would do that. One is outbound and the other is inbound. Inbound is simply meaning that a customer finds you through your website or social media and they reach out to you. Outbound means that you get a potential client's phone number or email and you reach out to them to see if they are interested in getting your product or service. And that is the kickstart of the sales process, is through prospecting. Secondly is qualifying. So qualifying is assessing the potential leads to determine if they meet your criteria as potential customers. This step involves understanding their needs, budget, decision-making process, and whether they fit your target market. So once you identify your potential target client, the next step is to qualify them. Qualify them meaning that you see if they are a good fit for your product or service. And like I've mentioned already, you're looking at things like, can you meet their needs? Do they have the money to pay you? Do they have a quick or a long decision-making process? Are you even talking to the right person, or can they refer you to someone that is a better fit for that conversation and taking the decision in a potential sale? So that's qualifying. Step 3 is the approach, okay? So that's initiating contact with the qualified leads, whether through phone calls, emails, networking events, or other means. The goal is to establish a connection and start building a relationship. Okay, so this actually can happen prior to qualifying, at the same time as qualifying, or after. Okay, and that really depends on how you're getting your information. So in the case where it happens before qualifying, so that's basically you doing inbound or outbound or meeting potential clients in networking events. Okay, so that would be the approach. It could also happen during the qualification, meaning that you already have a contact, you're just not sure if it's the right contact or not, and you confirm on the phone or the email or chat that the new contact basically is who you need to speak to. And it can happen after a qualification, meaning that if you reached out to a key contact and they were not the decision maker and they provided you with the information of the actual decision maker, okay, then you can reach to them after. So the approach really can happen at different stages depending on how you're going about your sales process. But for the purposes of this presentation or upload, we're going to put it as step 3. Step 4 is the presentation. Okay, So presenting your product or service to the prospects in a way that addresses their needs and demonstrates the value you can provide. This may involve product demos, pitches, or proposals. Okay, so now you have managed to confirm who is the key stakeholder decision maker. Okay, you have an understanding about their business objectives, some of the bottlenecks they face, what their needs are, whether they can afford to pay for your product or service, and also if it's a good fit, if your product or service is a good fit from a solution standpoint in terms of their issue or bottleneck. So you book the client in, you prepare a presentation, be it in person or over Zoom or any of the other virtual means. Okay? Step 5 is handling objections. So addressing any concerns or objections the prospect may have about your product or service. This requires active listening, empathy, and providing relevant information to overcome objections. Okay. Now, objections a lot of the time are going to come up around two things mainly, either timing or the money. Okay. So the first one is the timing. Okay. Timing meaning that there is possible interest in your product or service, but it is not the right time because you reached out in the wrong part of the budget cycle. Okay, so what might happen is you might need to come 2-3 months down the road when the new budget rolls out and you are able to obtain a commit from the client for your product or service. Now, when that happens, really all you need to do is sit back, relax, and be patient and touch point again when the buying window is open. Now, if the objection is in relation to money, okay, meaning that the pricing isn't right, this is easy to solve beforehand by making sure that your product or service offering is segmented. Segmented meaning that you're taking your existing product or service and you are creating different offerings or tiers from your initial product or service at different price points to accommodate your different customers and clients. Now that does require some research, does require having some pre-insight and being aware of your market and knowing your clients' needs. But if it does not work out, you can actually work with your client on customizing a deal for them that would fit their budget. The idea here is if you run into any objection or resistance is not to quit and give up, but to work a way where you can actually satisfy the client, give them as much value as possible, okay, up front, so they can actually justify the spend, be it right away or down the road. Okay, that's actually another way to go about it, is that a lot of the time when you get an objection, if the client isn't ready to pay right away, it's because they don't really see the value or they don't think that the purchase is worth that much. And it's on you as a person that is selling a product or a service to really provide that value add upfront. So your job at this point, when you're running into objection or resistance, is to make it as easy as possible for your client to pay you. Okay? Step 6, clothing. So, securing the sale by asking for the prospect's commitment to move forward with the purchase. This could involve negotiating terms, discussing pricing, and finalizing the details of the transaction. So, in this step, you pretty much have obtained an initial agreement that the client is interested in buying, okay? And what you're going to do is, depending on the industry you're in, you're going to prepare a purchase order or a statement of work or a purchase agreement, whatever the case may be, basically just a piece of document containing the service and offering, the terms and conditions, the pricing that had been discussed, And that's typically an initial draft that is received by the client, reviewed by the client, possibly their legal team, just to make sure that everything works for everybody. And then once that is okayed, you can send off the final signed agreement that basically finalizes the client's commitment to obtaining the product or service from you, as well as you committing to offering the product or service. All right. Step 7, follow-up. So after the sale is closed, following up with the customer to ensure satisfaction. Address any additional questions or concerns and nurture the relationship for potential future sales or referrals. So I'll give you an example of that. I've worked in tech startups previously, and typically post-sale is where you have teams such as implementation and client success. Okay. Now the job of the implementation team is basically to implement the service obtained by the client, okay, or the product purchase. The client success team is the team that follows up with the client to ensure that their implementation and onboarding went smoothly, that everything is going okay, that they're able to use the service easily, they're not running into any bottlenecks or having difficulties. Also, sometimes there is an educational component, either as part of the implementation or as part of the client successes team program, where they basically onboard the new clients post implementation and train the users on the client side on the new program, service, or products. Okay, so the follow-up is very important because you do get lessons from it, but also it helps you address some of the issues the clients might run into. Again, a lot of the time the clients will buy a product or a service expecting it to work in a certain way, even past the demo. But then when they actually get it and they hit the ground running, they run into difficulties and challenges that they do require help with. Okay, now some companies will offer that for free, it's already priced in anyways, or some companies will charge extra for it just to lower their initial cost of the product or service offering, and then basically add that later on as a standalone service. But the idea is that you again want to make it easy for your client to continue using your service and receive value from it. So when the contract does expire and you are hitting a new renewal cycle, they'll actually want to sign up again with you. Okay. Step 8 is retain and upsell. So this is basically continuously engaging with existing customers to maintain satisfaction, build loyalty, and identify opportunities for upselling or cross-selling additional products or services. And basically, this is exactly what it's saying, is that you are constantly keeping in touch with the client, and that's typically speaking, again, if I was to refer to the tech startup world, that's the relationship management teams. Each client would have a relationship manager assigned to them, and the job of the relationship manager is basically kind of like a concierge service. Okay, if the client has difficulties, has questions, needs requests, new features added, the relationship managers takes those requests and works with the different teams internally to facilitate the client's request. Okay, so that's very important to retain the client, right? Is just to have this relationship aspect, this relationship management, to make sure that the client is satisfied and happy. Then comes the piece of upselling and cross-selling. Okay, so upselling is basically when a client buys, let's say, a service for $100 where they get 20 users. And then down the road, as they scale and get bigger, you as the salesperson, or in this case, typically a relationship manager, would reach out to them to actually sell them up on a newer tier that will cost more but accommodate their growing user base and facilitate their scalability. Okay, and the idea here is that you are providing them with more value for a higher ticket price. All right, and that's really the objective long run in sales is to really get your client to spend more with you versus spending more with others or on others. All right. Now, the cross-selling piece is where basically you are selling other features within the tier the client obtained. So let's say the client obtained 20 user licenses, and he or she obtained those 20 user licenses for 3 modules. What you can do is you can reach out later and see if they would like to buy module 4 and 5 also, that offer other features and other benefits to the client. And that would be cross-selling. You're basically trying to get the client to really buy your whole product or service suite, not by pushing it aggressively, but making sure that they are getting value and a good return on their dollar from you. So there's 2 ways here really to enhance the dollar value attainment from your client by upselling or cross-selling, and retaining your client by basically offering them a dedicated relationship manager that sees, the different aspects of meeting the needs and wants of the clients with your organization. Okay, and just making sure that the client is taken care of. Like I said, a concierge service dedicated to your client. Right, step 9, and that is referral. So encouraging satisfied customers to refer others who may benefit from your product or service. Word of mouth referrals can be a powerful source of new business. So this is just basically if you have a client or a set of clients that are happy with your product or service, you request that they give you a referral. Now, the referral could be on paper if you're preparing, for example, proposals or any other paper-based documentation, or the referral could be by phone, or even if you have a website, the clients can leave you referral on the website. Okay, there's different tools out there and solutions like Trustpilot that you can actually use as a widget on your website and share a link via email to your satisfied clients, and they can go there at their discretion at their own time to leave you a review. Okay, and that's basically soliciting the review regardless of whether the client is satisfied or not, but you do find out once they do leave their review. Step 10 is analysis and feedback. So analyzing the sales process to identify areas for improvement and gathering feedback from both successful and unsuccessful sales interactions to refine your approach. So here what you're doing is you are collecting data and you're analyzing that data to better refine your approach and method to closing clients. All right. So you're taking what went right and you're taking data on what possibly went right. You're analyzing it to determine what works best. And then you refine that data into solutions that you can leverage forward so you can actually succeed more. On the flip side of the coin, if you had failures, okay, or deals that didn't go through, you're sitting down and assessing the data on these deals that didn't go through so you can determine the root cause of these deals not going through. Is it on you or is it on the client? Okay, and with respect to whether can you do something about it or not. So ultimately, what you're looking for is, regardless of success or failure, are lessons learned. You're looking at getting lessons out of these successes and failures so you can double down on what you can do right and you can reduce what you can't do right, or in this case, you've been doing wrong. All right, so that is it, you guys. These are the 10 steps for making money through sales. This is not something that's new. It's been around forever. It's a typical sales cycle. But if you are not in the sales world, this will be new for you and will be unfamiliar. And by the way, this doesn't just work for money making, this can actually work for you too in your dating life. It can work for your decision making on things that you want to acquire, purchase, right? Because what you can do is you can actually reverse engineer this process to fine tune your own decision making process. So, this is very useful, helpful, and beneficial if you want to make money or even use aspects of this on other sides of your own life. With that said, you guys, hopefully this has been helpful, and I'm going to wrap it up here as per usual. Very much appreciate your time and attention, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.